You're watching Fired Up, and here's what we've got coming up.
And his parents, of course, I think this might be part of the problem, are suing the guy who saved the life of the store manager.
I just can't believe that this guy thinks that these people think they're going to win. When he's told, stop, don't do that anymore, he changes his point of aggression to the individual who has the ability to shoot him.
No, it says it's safety on it.
Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most recognizable submachine guns in the world. It's the HK MP5.
Thanks for tuning in to Fired Up. I'll be your host for the show, Bob Irwin, coming to you from the gun store here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is all about guns, politics, and self-defense. On this edition, the panel will discuss three kind of interesting issues. We have a man who is being sued because he shot a robber that was about to execute a store manager. He's a CCW holder and saw it going on and shot the robber, and now he's being sued for those actions. I really can't make these stories up. They just fall out of places. We have a law professor at Texas A&M who is calling for the repeal and replacing of the Second Amendment. She instructs constitutional law at Connecticut School of Law, was doing a lecture there and advocated getting rid of the Second Amendment. And we have an interesting story. BATF is getting rather excited about the possibility of plastic guns, where people can make their own gun in their own house, and apparently assumes this will become a huge crime problem, and we will soon have criminals running around with single-shot plastic guns rather than Tech 9s. It would seem to be a good idea. But anyway, we're going to start out by talking about this, the first story. We all know that here in America, anybody can sue anybody for anything at any time. This obviously includes those shooting in defense of others. Here we have a concealed weapon permit holder who shot to save a victim who was being murdered. And guess what happened?
So the armed citizen walks into a store in Mobile, Alabama, right before Thanksgiving, and he's walking around and he notices that there is a guy in a mask with a gun, and he's pointing the gun at another individual in the store.
Is that
and
a clue?
that seemed a little odd to him, and he took some action.
Well, the criminal had the manager on his knees, and he had a gun to his head, and the CCW holder pulled his gun, and he yelled, "Don't move." The robber swung around and pointed his gun at him, and before the bad guy could fire at the CCW holder, he fired at him, I think 5 times actually. So, I mean, it's a pretty decent response, I think, considering there was a gun pointed at him. He got 5 out, whatever.
The appropriate response?
Unfortunately, the robber survived. And this was the number one error. And his parents, of course, I think this might be part of the problem, are suing the guy who saved the life of the store manager. And this comes under the heading of no good deed goes unpunished.
Well, the parents' argument is, as far as I can tell, it wasn't his business. He should have seen what was going on, turned around and walked away, and Junior would have simply probably robbed the individual, because clearly putting somebody on their knees is not usually an indicator that you're going to shoot them. That doesn't happen. And so they went ahead and filed this lawsuit on his behalf. Of course, as Bob said, in America, anybody can sue anybody pretty much for anything. The question is whether or not it will survive a legal challenge to whether the individual acted appropriately.
Come on, this is so stupid. I'm sorry, this is so stupid. This guy can't believe.
How stupid is it?
It's so stupid. I just can't believe that this guy thinks that these people think they're going to win. I mean,
But wait a minute, they found a lawyer to take the
well,
case.
that's true.
You can find those guys anywhere.
Yeah, you can find them well, never mind. But I mean, at the end of the day, stop it. At the end of the day, it's not a CCW holder's duty to intervene. But come on, if I see somebody's about to get shot, I'm carrying my CCW, I'm going to do something, or I'm not going to stand there and let this guy get murdered.
Well, and it's a little more than that, because even most states' laws that say you have a right to defend yourself with deadly force give you that right to defend other people too. Of course, the danger with getting involved in something like this is if it's misconstrued. Maybe they were clowning around. Maybe he was the buddy of the manager. In this case, it doesn't seem to be so. The individuals who were involved had a history
Friends
of
like
doing
that, who
bad
needs
things.
enemies?
But so the argument goes, you can act in defense of others, but be absolutely sure that's the right answer. I think under this circumstance, the facts proved out, this isn't the kind of behavior you expect to see when you walk into the store and you're walking down the aisle.
And the authorities maintain that he was completely within his right in order to defend the other person.
Oh, absolutely. He wasn't charged with anything, and I doubt he ever would be.
Well, you know, this goes a little deeper. The parents are making the assertion that he should have just walked away, and I guess it's none of his business.
Did you read it?
Do you think that perhaps this is why their son is a piece of human garbage?
They said,
Do you think it might have something to do
my
with it?
favorite thing is with the mom, she's like, talking about the Good Samaritan. You should have just left the store and went wherever you had to go in your car or whatever. I'm sorry. That's why your son has a gun and a mask and he's trying to murder people in the grocery store.
Obviously a Vassar graduate. so-
Clearly.
And the kid who got shot, the crazy part about the story is, of course, when he's told, stop, don't do that anymore, he changes his point of aggression to the individual who has the ability to shoot him. We talk about it all the time. Don't pull a gun on a drawn gun unless you're absolutely sure. Well, he did the exact same thing. He turned around and pointed his firearm at somebody who had the means to defend himself and others. That's what happened.
But this could have turned entirely different. You know, with a split second, we could have had a dead hero.
Could have.
And this thing would have come out completely differently. You know, this was a happy ending. The bad guy got shot, not the good guy. But you know, this is just for a split second. It could have been,
Or it could have been two
completely
bad guys if he would have killed the CCW owner.
You never know. There might be another robber there as a backup guy and so forth and so on. But what the guy did was very, very courageous. And everybody on the panel is correct. It could go wrong. Years ago when I was working in San Fernando, California, we had a store owner shot that had sold a friend of his, both of them are very elderly, a .30-30 rifle, and the guy had left with it, and he's bringing it back because something on it didn't work. And the store owner at that moment was standing behind his counter facing the wall, hanging things on the pegboard, had his back to the door. So his friend, with the empty rifle, playfully walked across and stuck him in the back with the muzzle.
Oh boy.
A clerk came out of the back room that didn't know the old guy, saw that, his boss with his hands up on the wall and a guy sticking a rifle in his back, and he shot and killed the old guy who was bringing back a broken rifle. You know, that's what you have to worry about is you're coming into the middle of a movie and you don't really know what's going on. But in this case, the guy gave him several warnings. In the case I'm talking about, the clerk just shot. And I can't really fault him for just shooting. He believed his boss was about to get killed. But this guy, our Good Samaritan here, told him apparently twice, don't move, and the guy started spinning around with the gun. So that's why we always advocate giving warnings if it's possible to do that, just in case there's some rational explanation as to what the guy that looks like he's committing crime. But in this case,
But,
he was.
Tactically, by even challenging him, he put the onus on himself, because, I mean, it only takes us, not even a fraction of a minute to pull that trigger. So he could have actually hastened the shooting, or it could have turned out in some real tragic situations. But if you're gonna be a courageous individual and you're gonna make those decisions, in this particular case now, he saved a life, but he's now going to pay
He's not going to pay.
consequences. Well,
he's not going to pay
He's
anything.
going to pay for the lawyer.
The
Yeah.
judge that does not kick this out on the first appearance is going to get run out of town on a rail. I mean, we're in Mobile, Alabama, for criminy sakes,
That's
and they're going to
Mobile,
get
by
this
the
guy.
way.
It's Mobile.
Yes.
We're in one of those towns. They're adjacent.
Mobile, Alabama.
But I cannot see a judge in the American South looking at this and going, oh yeah, I'm going to award $100,000 to this injured robber who was wearing a knife, wearing a mask, having a real knife, a real gun with him. I mean, everything here was real that was going on, and it wasn't a mistake. Granted, there could have been a lot of them, and God bless the CCW holder. He put himself in jeopardy, and hopefully he did this from cover. If you ever think of getting involved in one of these, you're not standing in the open where he can shoot you, but
he did pretty good. Shot him 5 times.
Yeah.
and didn't kill him. So
Well, that's unfortunate.
he could get to work for a local police department here with that kind of
Oh,
marksmanship.
that was underhanded.
We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
More discussion on guns, politics, and self-defense when we come back on Fired Up.
This is our only defense over an overreaching government. Lately, maybe not so much.
The government's not coming for your guns, although New York just announced they're gathering up guns. So
Yes.
And we are back here on Fired Up. This next story is a law professor who is an instructress at Texas A&M. She has called for repealing and replacing the Second Amendment to the Constitution, and was quoted in a speech as saying, "Why do we keep such an allegiance to the Constitution that was driven by 18th century concerns?" That's what motivated the Second Amendment, she said, fear of a standing army. Maybe there's a little more to the Constitution than that.
I think the standing army the founding fathers were worried about was the British one when they were actually drafting the document, but you get a little further into it, there's way more to the Constitution, and not just the whole Constitution. If you get into the reasoning behind the Second Amendment, it was much more complex than most legal scholars, obviously including this one, have given it credit for.
I think her complaint is that the current wave of gun laws has not been effective in stopping murders. The fact that the criminals who are really committing these crimes, they're not the ones obeying the law. So even if you change the law, the bad guys are still going to do whatever they want. Honest gun owners are not the ones doing these mass murders. So they're the ones abiding by the law. They're still not going to kill anybody.
Yeah, but her pretense in this is because there's a small percentage of people out there committing crimes that we should eliminate the rights to all the citizens. And this is that knee-jerk liberal agenda that permeates much of our political spectrum now. That they call for this. But if you were to try and take a constitutional right that she approved of, then there'd be all hell to pay. But because she doesn't like it, because it's not part of her political agenda, then she tries to find a way to repeal the very document that has been so successful in our country.
Well, and the whole point of the Second Amendment, and the founding fathers wrote this so the king couldn't take away the guns from the people, from the peasants. And, this is our only defense over an overreaching government, okay? And let's face it, lately, maybe not so much, not so far-fetched.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone here, with the exception of one person, has worked for the government and been a law enforcement representative for the government, and we all recognize that there is a serious issue with overreach, and that the old adage about absolute power corrupting absolutely is not just words.
That's exactly it. And they're talking about the Constitution. She says they're talking about a well-regulated militia. That's the part that she chose to twist because the well-regulated militia actually refers to the militia at that time was all the adult population, basically, males between 18 and 45, and then we allowed women to be citizens somewhere later on in there. But the militia is all of the people, not the National Guard. And I can't imagine this woman is teaching the Constitution and does not understand the language when it was being written.
Wait a minute, don't we have somebody really high up in government that was supposedly a constitutional
I was just
law
going to say
professor
that.
also that doesn't seem to recognize the constitutional rights of...
Here's the simple answer about this. Having gone to law school and dealt with this particular mindset for those years, and later on as a lawyer dealing with other lawyers, quite often what happens is we fixate on the parts of the law we like, and we try to change the parts of the law we disagree with, even if the courts have ruled on it. The Second Amendment has gone from being and kind of an afterthought, actually. The Constitution was written, the Federalists didn't think we needed to add anything to it, and when you read their writings, it's because they didn't think it was even an issue. Their attitude was, well, of course that's the reasoning behind it, but we don't need to write it in the document. The Anti-Federalists said, no, we need some assurances, so we got the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. The courts, for the first bunch of years that there were court cases on the issue, just passed it off. Of course it's an individual right, and of course it means you can carry whatever guns you want. It wasn't until we got into the modern century, 1939 essentially, and then a few cases later on, that it became an issue over what does militia mean versus what does an individual right being protected mean. But in the last 5 years, the Supreme Court has locked this issue down with the Heller decision and the McDonald decision. It's now an individual right. Militia simply means the people. Firearm means any firearm in usual commerce, including those the military uses, if you read the court opinion. And then after the McDonald decision in 2010, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals said, we're going to go one step further. Illinois, that means you have to allow people to carry firearms out in public for self-defense.
It does say keep and bear arms somewhere in there. So
we went through a bunch of years where the college professors didn't say things like we need to wipe the Second Amendment from the slate because they were winning the legal argument with the court. Now that they've lost several big gun cases in a row, it's an individual right, and it means what we've always said it meant. Now we're going to start hearing scholars go back to, well, it's antiquated. We don't really need that. The government's not coming for your guns, although New York just announced they're gathering up guns. So yes. I think the Second Amendment is just as relevant today as it ever was. The Supreme Court has clarified it, but we're still going to see legal scholars try to find loopholes.
I'm sure we will, because that's what they do. The socialists want to move the country to in the direction they want to go, and they're falling over the Constitution now because it's in their way. But the Constitution is very clear in this issue. And Michael, you mentioned that in New York now, under their new Safety Act, they're actually now sending out letters to people that registered their guns with the state of New York, and telling them, because they own a .22 rifle, literally, that has a clip that holds more than 5 rounds, they need to remove it from the state of New York or come turn it into the police department and get a receipt for it, or have a gunsmith permanently modify it so it will no longer... We're talking bolt action .22 caliber rifles because they come with a 7-shot magazine.
Right, and the letter says, we know that no one makes a magazine that holds the legally required number of rounds, so your options are, as you said, dispose of it, give it to us, or pay a gunsmith to permanently modify the magazines you have and prove you did it. Bring them in and show us.
Is this being challenged?
I'm sure it will be.
It's being challenged, but it's the law in New York now, and it's not part of the outline because but it's a good example of what we're talking about. When they simply... I mean, as stupid as now you have a magazine in your .22 kids rifle that holds 7 rounds instead of 5, it is now contraband in New York. And because they register all guns in New York, they have a list, and they send out letters to people that own these guns telling them exactly that. Bring them in and turn them in, permanently modify them, or take them out of New York State. That's it.
And that's why when government makes any move at all to restrict gun ownership, there's an outcry because of the possibility of overreach. What we have here is the living example of overreach.
And it's what the founders
And the political
feared.
agenda.
Absolutely what the founders
Yeah.
feared. And professors like this who espouse things like that's not necessary, nobody's coming for your guns, you're paranoid, you're this, you're that. They always seem to forget that if we just wait around a little while, somebody will come along and prove them wrong by doing exactly what the founders knew would happen. Because it had happened to them in England. The British attempted to do that in this country, and it was only firearms and a willingness to use them that kept the country free. They wrote that into our founding documents.
That's exactly why
But
that's
that's
in
an
the
outmoded
Constitution.
idea.
But this,
Same phrase.
you know, this reminds me totally when I saw this thing from New York. It reminded me of the scene from the 1984 movie Red Dawn, when the Cuban colonel is standing in the town saying, "Go find the 4473s because that's the record of all personal firearms, and go get them." I mean, it smacks exactly of that.
And we're required to keep those. As a dealer, I've got a whole room here that is full of 4473s from the last 20 years. We're storing it right next to a really faulty space heater that sparks every once in a while. Not really ATF. We're going to have to end this one right here, and we'll be back after these few messages. Don't go away.
We'll have more Fired Up when we come back.
Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most recognizable submachine guns in the world. It's the HK MP5.
Hey, we're back here at the Pro Gun Club for the Firearms Fair, and I'm here with Bill Murphy, the owner-operator of the Surefire Institute. This is his show. Bill, it's such a pleasure to see you out
It's a
here.
pleasure to see you guys, and thanks for coming out. My show is scary. This is the show of 40 vendors that showed up this weekend to put all this stuff together so that the public could come out and shoot, try all the different weapon systems. Vendors are selling their individual wares, and it's hard to get 20 different shooting companies on one range at one time. So this is an honor that they all came out to participate. But it's really for the people of the Las Vegas area, you know, Boulder, Henderson, and what happened is you can come do anything you want today short of a human sacrifice. All right, we don't allow that, but anything short of that, we allowed it.
Well, I see you've got your moving robot out here. People are shooting that and having fun with that.
Well, we're having a great time. Is that we brought our steel targets out. We have reactive steel. We have the moving target, so it attacks you as you're applying self-defense to it. And so you're applying the shooting to it. It's coming at you. Then we pull the T-shirt off. We give you a T-shirt, and then you get to wear the T-shirt with the bullet holes through it and all that. So it's a fun thing. It's family-oriented. We got kids games. We got food. We got all the different stuff. We do this in California. But as we all know, California is dying on the vine, so we wanted to move this whole event over to Las Vegas and over here to the range, and it's just a great
Now,
event.
this is the first time it's been held here at Pro Gun, correct?
We've been doing it at Rahaga's Range in California for 30 years, and we're going to continue as long as we can. But what happened, this is the first year of it in Las Vegas. This is the first year of it at Boulder. And so what happened is at the Pro Gun Club, we got it set up. This is our new home. We built our range facilities. We put our berms in. We put our classrooms. We put our shoot houses in. So this is the home of the Surefire Institute. And we're related to Surefire LLC, which is the flashlight company. We're the training arm of them. So we do some of the most advanced training in the world for military, for law enforcement, for the public, for the armed citizen.
And at Fired Up with Bob, we're all about guns, politics, and self-defense and doing it right. So how would our viewers get to come out here to take a class with your world-class instructors?
Well, all you have to do is go on the Surefire Institute or just go to Surefire and hit training, and you can go ahead and get a hold of us, and you can come on out. We run classes every week. We've got some great experienced instructors. We've got some Las Vegas Metro guys. We have some retired military guys. We have some active duty special operations guys that come on out here and they do the teaching. And our emphasis is fun while learning. And then what happened, the skills here, we have so many testimonials about the skills that we teach, saving lives in combat, saving lives of the armed citizen, and it's just, that's our reward.
And that is exactly what it is. You need to come out here, take a class with these folks, improve your skills. If you carry a firearm for self-defense, you need to be able to effectively employ that tool. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us.
And remember, next year, same weekend, the 14th and 15th of November, it will be Firearms Fair 2.
See you then. We're still here at Pro Gun at the Firearms Fair hosted by the Surefire Institute. I'm here with Tim Wegner, the inventor of the Blade Tech holster and the founder of the company. He's got a bunch of his wares out here. I'm just admiring this particular holster. I have a similar model in leather, but this one is so much lighter and looks a whole lot neater. Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
Well, we make more fits for more different firearms than any manufacturer on the planet. There's probably not a gun out there that we don't or haven't made a holster or molds for. We do everything from injection molded stuff to our hand formed and custom Kydex work. A little bit of both, and we have all kinds of cool fittings and stuff, which is a lot of these fittings were invented because we needed something different than trying to make multiple different belt sizes on a holster or a magazine pouch. So we have the Tech Lock, which is a multi-functional belt clip. It can be adjusted for different belt sizes. It can be put on all kinds of different gear equipment, like magazine pouches, flashlight holders, holsters. A lot of people like them on their gun holsters and that.
That seems brilliant because you might go from a dress belt to a 2-inch belt to a nylon belt.
Exactly.
Instead of having a different holster for each one. Yeah, I always told my students and my clients, you need to find the holster that works for you, and you might have to go through 4 or 5, and sometimes it's just how it attaches to the belt. The holster's fine. So that is brilliant.
And one thing we've always kind of strive for is to give the customer the most bang for their buck. A lot of our stuff is modular. It's built on a modular platform. All these belt loops can be interchanged with a paddle or the Tech Lock. We've got our modular mount system. This is a tactical platform that we've done for military applications. It's got the fitting that goes on a thigh rig. You can also put it on a chest rig or a belt rig. So you've got multiple places that you can use your product or wear your firearm, and you can mount it in the vehicle for that matter. So it's just really fun to be in the industry and to be able to innovate and do things, and we've kind of probably been at the forefront a lot of the innovation and stuff, and it's been a great time.
Well, I think every time I see a molded holster or a Kydex holster, it always gets the generic phrase Blade Tech. No matter who made it, your company gets the credit for it. I think you're the first in the game.
We even get holsters for repair that aren't ours.
So let me ask you a quick question, because you can custom build. Do you do custom builds to people's guns?
We do custom stuff. For the most part, we have anything and everything, but if somebody has a firearm that they need something done or something different, we will do a custom item. It's a little more involved to do that, but we can offer that. And then what you get with the Blade Tech holster is you get our patented click. Everything goes click, click, click.
It's got to be secure. As your slogan says there, carry confident. It's very important to have a good way to carry the firearm.
Well, whether it's a firearm or a knife, your gear is only as good as the equipment you carry it in.
Yeah. The worst thing to do would be to reach for it and it not be there. Isn't that correct?
And if you're jumping out of a plane and you got a knife tied to your leg, if you hit the ground too hard, it's better to have it contained in a Kydex sheath rather than in your leg.
Well, and that's a good point, because a lot of the material you have here was designed for military application.
Exactly.
And that's probably the harshest testing environment possible. So it's going to work well for a civilian who wants to carry too, right?
Definitely. And the thing is, being in this industry, we have military guys, law enforcement guys that love to go out and 300-pound gorillas field test and stuff for us, and that's how we've been able to learn and make better products, is to have the guys that are getting out there and doing it give us the feedback to make a better product.
So I presume you have a website and a business location that our viewers can contact you.
www.bladetech.com.
www.bladetech.com. As we always talk about on the show, it is vitally important that if you carry a firearm for your defense and the defense of others, that you carry it in a good quality holster that is in the same location so you can access it quickly. Give Tim's guys a call. Have them get a holster to you. It is a good investment in your safety.
Hi, we're still here at the Pro Gun Club at the Firearms Fair, and ran into my good friend Marion Heinbeck, who is the Desert Chapter President of Safari Club International. And I've been a member of Safari Club for over 30 years myself, a long timer. Marion, she's our chapter president. There's all chapters all over the country, and they set up a booth here for, I guess you're doing the kids?
Yeah, we put a bouncy house together. We want more family We just want more family-oriented events. We want kids getting involved in shooting and hunting and all about safety. Safari Club International is all over the world, and we are the local desert chapter. We're all about conservation and education.
We've got a big, the national convention is going to be coming here in January
Yes,
at
Tony.
Mandalay Bay.
It's actually in February, and it's going to be at the Mandalay Bay.
Mandalay
yes.
Bay.
Yeah. People from all over the world will have booths there, and we're real excited to have it back in Las Vegas.
We've got a couple of our buddies here, a nice bongo and a nice Cape Buffalo. A nice banner, a little booth handing out stuff. I know I'm looking forward to it. I usually, unfortunately, the last couple of years I couldn't make it. I was in Mexico hunting, but I'm looking forward to it this year. Looking forward to seeing you.
Great. Thanks so much, Tony.
Yeah, we get together every once in a while, the desert chapter here. We have get-togethers at members' houses. They show off their trophy rooms, and it's a very social-oriented thing, and we have a great time doing it, and it's good for them. Got to get the young people involved.
Absolutely. It's all about the youth.
Yeah. Us old people, you know, we can't climb the hills like we used to.
No, that's for sure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see you at the convention.
Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most recognizable submachine guns in the world. It's the HK MP5. The gun was developed back in the 60s, and it was used probably by just about every police department in the country that had a special operations group or a SWAT team. Used by military, police, all over the world. The federal agencies, in fact, I'm sure you all remember the iconic picture of the federal agent when they rescued Ilian Gonzalez from his house in Miami. The officer had an MP5, the federal agent had an MP5 in his hand. This is a very, very nice gun for competitive shooting. It's very, very popular with our shooters, especially out here in Las Vegas. A lot of our guys are HK fanatics. They worship this gun. It is, for a submachine gun, it's extremely complicated. It's typical German engineering, you know, let's try and make it more complicated. It fires from a closed bolt. But a lot of the parts are interchangeable with the larger caliber HKs. HK, from their 308, their G3, their 93, their 223 model, and the MP5, all basically use the same trigger pack. And you can interchange the parts on them. This gun here is a very pleasant shooting gun. It is quite expensive now. On the civilian market now, these are costing about $20,000. So you have to have significant means to buy one of these for your own personal use. For police agencies now, it's kind of phasing out. The market has changed a little bit, and they're going to a more modern gun. But it is still in use all around the world. When I go to Mexico hunting, I know when we check our guns in at the airport, when we arrive there, there's the Federales with MP5s. So I mean, it's a worldwide recognizable gun. Very pleasant gun to shoot. As I said, it fires from a closed bolt. Very high rate of fire, 700 rounds a minute, around there, and we're going to shoot it. And the MP5, there's different lowers on them. This is called an SEF lower, which is safe. E is for Eins in German, means single shot, and F, of course, is full. So some of them will have a pictorial logo on it, where one are safe would be a bullet with an X through it, a white one, and then the Eins would be one red bullet, and then the full will be several little bullet icons on there. As I said, it's a very, very pleasant gun to shoot, and I'm sure you've all seen the magazines, the curved magazine. You put it in, and I know on television they always slap them down to charge it, and we're ready to go. Here we take it up. Pull it back on the last shot, magazine comes out. You can see that the very controllable gun has a very pleasant recoil to it, not overly severe, and it's one of my favorites. The first submachine gun that I bought when I came out to Las Vegas was an MP5.
No, it says it's safety on it.
Hi, I'm Mike Rogers from the Gun Store. Time for our Moron of the Week segment. This is where we try to show you people being unsafe so that you won't be. You might pick up some tricks. Please seek good instruction from a good instructor.
Intruders.
You know what I think? I think I'm getting on this side of the gun.
Really?
Dude,
What?
this just says...
No, it says it's safety on it.
He was quite sure that the safety on was on that 590A1 Mossberg shotgun, so he put his finger on the trigger to test it, with the obvious result.
What they're really there to do is investigate whether or not a crime has occurred, and if a crime has occurred, to arrest someone. Last week we talked about whether or not to speak with responding police officers or investigators after a self-defense shooting. Some of my clients have told me, but the police are there to help me. And to a certain degree that's true. What they're really there to do is investigate whether or not a crime has occurred, and if a crime has occurred, to arrest someone. That is their job. And to that end, the police are not your friend. They're going to follow their training, and their training is to investigate. That involves getting people to talk. If you've ever watched an episode of a law enforcement show like Cops, you know. Quite often the officers start asking questions, and before too long the person they're talking to has confessed to a whole litany of crimes. Sometimes even crimes they themselves haven't committed. In the aftermath of a shooting, you will be frazzled. It is a stressful situation that is very difficult to train for, and very few people ever become comfortable in that level of stress. If you speak to law enforcement who are trying to get a statement from you, you may say something in error, and that might be just enough for a prosecutor or a civil attorney to get a toehold in a trial. You're far better off invoking your rights to remain silent and contacting an attorney.
We are back here on Fired Up. You have seen a lot of stuff in the press almost every day for the last several weeks about plastic guns, that people are building single shots and crude multi-shot plastic guns, built on a 3D printer, and the ATF has gone into literally a hissy fit over this idea that criminals will buy these $4,000 or $5,000 devices and make their own gun of some sort. And my belief is, and we're going to have some discussion here, is that criminals get real guns as easy as you could possibly imagine. And if we could restrict them to single-shot plastic guns, there'd probably be a lot lower crime rate. But the ATF has devoted now a lot of resources to find a way to make a law that says you can't build a gun out of plastic in your own house. None of them have been used in crime yet, so we'll start from here.
That we know of, and they're newer designs that ordinary people can just download from the internet. When they put up the first design, I think it was downloaded something like 100,000 times before they yanked it off the internet. The materials are getting more advanced and they're getting cheaper, and the technology is there for them to be able to produce, you know, as it develops, the guns are getting better for all intents and purposes. They're getting nicer, I guess, if you can explain it that way.
And can we rationally expect the government to wait until there's a problem? I think not. They're looking for a situation, they're looking for a problem to legislate against, and they're going to do it. This is one of those examples where the mere idea of the possibility of this happening, they actually were upset about this before the first 3D printed gun ever actually functionally worked. That when 3D printers became available to the general public, it was somebody's concern, but they didn't legislate against it until this attempt right now. So it's going to be interesting.
I think that we're going to inevitably see crimes committed with these kind of weapons. Now that this 3D technology exists, there's no doubt, just as pseudoephedrine, you know, which is a chemical used in antihistamines, can be used to make meth. I mean, you know, you can take anything and make something negative out of it. But inevitably, the punks out there are going to take this technology and they're going to use it for nefarious purposes. So I don't see anything wrong with looking forward at this technology and making some type of legislation about it.
You know, Randy, I agree with you that probably at some point somebody will do something stupid. That doesn't mean, for example, we ban fast cars because somebody will do something stupid in a fast car.
No, of course
not. Now, let me ask you a dumb question. Lenny, you've dealt with firearms all over the world. Wouldn't it be easier just to go to the hardware store and get the parts necessary to produce a functional firearm for about $20 than buy a $4,000 printer?
Most of these guys are going to get their guns the old-fashioned way. They're going to steal them, or they're going to buy them from a guy who stole it off the black market. I don't believe these people that are doing that are the rocket scientists that have got a job at, you know, NASA and have the ability to buy, like you say, a $3,000 or $4,000 printer and start making and designing a pistol out of the thing. I really think, you know, ATF, you know, they've got a tough job. And guys, don't get me wrong, but I think the ATF really needs to start chasing some other problems other than worrying about a 3D printer.
Well, in all the times you guarded somebody or protected a principal and you've done that all over the world, was a 3D printed gun or a plastic gun first and foremost in your mind?
Never. And you know, you go to some place like you go to Pakistan. A perfect example in Pakistan. You can go into certain markets in certain cities in Pakistan, and there is a guy who literally has probably half of what Sears would ever sell on Craftsman tools, and he's building AK-47s, MP5s, G3s. You know, anybody could build this. You know, how many times over the years did we see zip guns? You know, a piece of pipe and a 22, but a piece of wood and some duct tape and a spring and a nail. That's literally a zip gun.
You haven't seen it yet, but 100,000 people download this because there's 100,000 people out there that, in theory, are interested in building
none
it.
of them have a printer.
Who knows? We don't know. We don't know if they've got the printer or not.
Why do we assume he's going to commit a crime with it?
Yeah.
I didn't say they were going to commit a crime, but you're saying there's not a lot of people out there that are looking to print all these these guns
get
out.
Computers and they make cartoons of porn. They buy drugs and mix them together, and they're always finding some new way to get high, etc. I would much rather see them devote their science to detecting, perhaps, a plastic gun going through a security barrier, rather than going to everybody's house that downloaded this thing and say, aha, you might make an illegal gun. I'm sorry, that's like reading a book that, you know, the Anarchist Coast book. That is not a crime.
Well, and I was going to say,
and they're assuming this is going to be a
Not
crime.
that it's a crime.
Well, no,
of course they
but-
should
but-
catch them,
But the problem is you're equating 100,000 people downloading a file off the internet with 100,000 potential criminals out there. You know, 100,000 people buy books by Tom Clancy that explain how to fly a 747 into a building.
I'm not equating it to that. I'm just saying, 100,000 people, all right, they download this, right, whatever. Not all of them are just looking just to browse, and not all of them are probably going to be great people. There's going to be a couple that get through, and there's going to be a couple statistically out of that probably get it right and build something kind of scary. That's all.
But in your mind, banning the information or banning the technology is the appropriate answer?
No. It's already out there. I'm just saying, and the technology is out there. I just think that someone's going to use it bad.
How many years have we had plastic knives?
Oh, forever.
That will go through metal detectors.
20 plus years.
And how many have stabbed people on airplanes?
Not a one.
They're chasing a problem that doesn't exist. Murder, assassination, etc., is already against the law. And it's like saying there might be drunk drivers, so when we invent cars, we should get rid of whiskey. It's the combination that has not happened yet. And if there's any work done on it, it seems to me rather than chasing 100,000 people that downloaded this, they should be making some equipment that'll detect plastic guns or detect the gunpowder or so forth and so on, which we've done. I mean,
can we not agree that inevitably, this technology is going to surface in a crime?
Yes.
It will. But here's the whole thing. Do we spend does ATF spend the resources, limited resources they have to chase a maybe, instead of last year there were 77,000 straw purchases documented. Less than 7,000 were prosecuted.
Right.
Go after those people that do the, spend that those
Absolutely.
guys to go after these people that buy these guns illegally in a straw purchase. The massacre of the fire department guys in Long Island, New York, with an AR-15 and a Bushmaster by an ex-felon, that was a straw purchase. Those are the things that I'd rather see ATF go after. I mean, they're really good at that.
Maybe they could spend the time and catch the guys that ran all those guns across the Mexican border. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. You mean the
Here we
one
go.
that Eric Holder said he didn't know anything about?
Those guys.
That one?
Because
And it
there
starts
should have
again.
been an investigation. There were 300 some murders happened from that, and we've got guys chasing theoretical plastic guns. That is really poor choice to make with your resources that you've got.
You're
No
right.
argument there.
You're right, Randy, that at some point one of these will turn up in a crime somewhere. So will a $800 Sig Sauer. So will a $600 Glock. We don't ban things because they're misused.
Oh,
We
I
ban
agree.
them
I
if
agree
they're
entirely.
dangerous or if they are a true threat. The few printable firearms that have been made that have actually been made to fire are not a threat to the general welfare yet.
They keep blowing up in their hands. It'll take care of itself. The guns keep exploding.
Sort of a self-solving problem.
So I printed this gun, right? Now I can. Now I'm a lefty. So
But
that's fine.
you can buy plastic pipe and plastic blocks for kids and do the same thing without printing it on one of those machines. You can make a zip gun. They do it all the time.
I look at this exactly like when you go to Home Depot. If you take some PVC pipe and you cap it and you put black powder in it and you put a fuse in it, what have you made? A bomb. So are we no longer going to be able to go to Home Depot and fix our plumbing? Is that going to be registered? I've got a leaky sink. That's why I say this is just ridiculous use of resources.
The same technology that these 3D printers have allowed a father to print a hand for his son who was born without a hand. I saw this. It was amazing.
Yeah.
He's allowed him to print a hand for that, which is amazing. This technology is so wonderful for that. On the same side, it's going to allow us to print some things that are going to be a little scary, and we should be aware of it. Now, banning all of it, no, it doesn't outweigh the benefit that it could. We just need to keep it on the table as something that could happen.
We've been aware of it since Clint Eastwood's in the line of fire.
The guy made a plastic gun
Made a plastic
and tried
gun.
to sneak it through, and so forth and so on. But that was a fantasy from 1993.
Now
it's
we
real.
Reality.
still haven't seen that actually happen.
Yeah,
in
20
real life.
years and we haven't seen it happen.
We're not going to resolve the plastic gun thing, and this is an ever-changing story. We'll probably be doing it again in 6 months. So we are out of time. Sorry we could not get farther into that. We'll be back here next week, same time, same station. Please check us out, and we'll see you again. Thank you. Merry Christmas to y'all. They made me wear this hat, so have a great holiday season.
Happy holidays, guys.